When he came, the Messiah made the promise of a kingdom, a new world, rich, peaceful, unpolluted, joyful for all. What leads to that kingdom? What precedes its arrival? Do you want to be part of it? Are you ready for the promise?
Good morning everyone. Thank you for tuning in on the radio show of today, The Promise. I will continue with the topic that we began to saw a few weeks ago, but especially I will continue on what I spoke about last week. Last week, if you remember, we saw the question of grace without works. We have been saved by grace, okay, not by work, but we have been. Remember, I said to you that tense of the verb is important. It was past tense. We have been saved. That's the grace of Yahweh, being saved from our past. Why? Because our past, you cannot do anything about it. Of course, once the reset button has been pushed, once our life in Messiah begins at zero, we have to do something. So now we are under grace. But being under grace doesn't mean that we have not anything to do. And that's where belief comes in. If you remember, I said to you that belief in Elohim is the base of our walk. And we saw that with Abraham. Abraham walked in belief. Not only with belief, but in belief. In whom? Elohim. As far as we are concerned, we walk in the belief in Yahweh and in Yeshua. For us to walk in Yeshua is important, but we have to believe in Him. We have to believe in the Son of the Father. So, that belief has steps to follow. It's a walk. We have to walk according to Yeshua, if you remember. So here I'm just making a short resume of what we saw last week. So, belief is in itself indispensable element for our walk. If you want to walk, belief is important. You cannot walk without belief. Because if you have no belief, if you really don't want to have faith, let's call it like that, Yahweh will look upon us, and I said that last week also, as people which didn't change. We need belief. We cannot afford anymore to walk without belief. We are not Gentiles anymore. We've been called to be part of Israel, the people of Yahweh, through Messiah. That means that the same way as He walked, we have to walk. So He walked in belief. So we have to walk in belief also. All that principle is important. And if you remember, I talked to you about Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. The point is clear about belief. Once the reset button has been pushed, once our life begins at zero, we are a new man. Remember? We are a new man in Messiah. We are a new creature in Messiah. We are a new person. We are born again in Messiah. In faith. We don't see yet that we are born again. We are born again in faith, in Messiah. If we hold fast until the end, then we shall be saved, remember? But you need an important point for that. You need belief. If you don't have belief, you have a problem. Hebrews 11 chapter 6 says this. But without belief, so without faith in certain version, in the King James Version, it is impossible, so I repeat that, without faith, without belief, it is impossible to please Him. Him being the Father in this case. For he who comes to Elohim has to believe that He is, or that He exists, He's there, and that He is a rewarder of those earnestly seeking Him. So, it's impossible to believe, to please Yahweh the Father if we don't believe in Him. You don't believe in Him, so as far as I was concerned, well, you don't please Him, and if you don't please Him, He will not answer your prayer, for instance. Remember what Yeshua says and what John says also, whatever we ask, we receive from it because we do what is pleasing to Him or what He asks us to do. When we obey Him, we please Him. When we have belief, we please Him also. If we don't have belief, we displease Him. If you don't obey, you displease Him. And when you displease Yahweh, what happens? Well, He doesn't answer you. Okay? So, belief is an important topic, an important point that you should not overlook. So, I say we have been saved through grace, okay, the grace of Yahweh. So now, what do we have to do now? Okay, let's say we have been saved through grace by Yahweh of our past sin. The sin is blotted out, everything is clean. Now Yahweh gives us the opportunity to go back to zero, to redo our life. That's exactly what Yahweh is doing, in fact. Now Yahweh gives us the opportunity, the blessing, and the favor, the grace, the favor, to We live our life now from zero. Everything is the past is done. Forget. Okay, zoom. The board is white again. What are we supposed to do now? Now in the present. Now we live in the present. Okay, the past is the past. The future is still the future. The future depends on what we will do now in the present. Now that we are beginning our life again. That's where faith comes in. And that's the point that in Ephesians is always overlooked. When people quote Ephesians 2 about grace, they always forgot the other point, which has this. I will read it to you. For by grace you have been saved. Okay, so again, for favor you have been, past tense, you have been, okay, that's the past, you have been saved through belief. That's the point that people forget. Through belief. Belief was an important point here. And belief, let's continue now, and that not of yourself, it is the gift of Elohim. What is the gift of Elohim? The favor. But you still need belief. And it is not by works, so that no one should boast. Okay? So our past sins have been forgotten and have been forgiven through Yeshua, through the Messiah. That's the grace of Yahweh. And it's not by any works. But that doesn't mean that now that we have been favored, now that we are under the grace, we have no work to do. That passage doesn't say that we have no work to do. He's speaking about the past here. It is not by works that we have found grace. Okay? That doesn't mean we have nothing to do now, in the present tense. And this is what belief is all about. Remember? So, let's say, what does real belief, faith, if you prefer, require? And you put that together, favor and belief, and you will see that you will have to work now in the present. You cannot do anything. The past is the past, but now that you are in a new life, in newness of life, in a new walk, you have to do something. You have to work for your salvation. We have all to work to our own salvation. It's biblical. Remember, we have to work present tense. We have to work now for our own salvation. We have been saved from our past because we cannot do anything about the past, but the present we can do something about it. Because now we don't have any excuse, any ignorance not to be able to do something about it. That's why we need belief. Okay? So what does real belief or what does real faith require? Well, let's go in James. James repeats 7 times what we have to do. And I will underline something here. My brothers, so James chapter 2, verse 14 and 17. My brothers, what use is it for anyone to say he has belief, but does not have works? This belief is unable to what? To save him. Oh, wait a minute. We see we need works for salvation. I will repeat that. My brothers, what use is it for anyone to say he has belief, but does not have works? This belief, the belief without works, that's what he means here. Belief without works is unable to save him. So you can see here that works goes with salvation. So people who say that salvation without works is enough, no. You must work for your salvation. If you don't have work and you believe, you cannot be saved, which means that salvation is linked to work. Not the past, the present now. Now that you are under grace, you have to work for your salvation. It's your job, with the help of Yahweh, of course. You will not do it alone. Let's be clear, because the glory is upon Him, not upon us. But we have to do something about it. But you can see here, belief which doesn't have work is unable to save us, which proves that belief, works, and salvation goes together. Works goes with salvation. You cannot do anything about it, and you must admit it. It's biblical, it's there. If you say something different, you transgress the commandment because you add something to the scriptures, because the scripture says to you, you have to work for your salvation. Let's continue, verse 17. So also belief, if it does not have works, is in itself dead. So if you believe in Yahweh and you don't work, your belief is dead. Interestingly enough, no? Let's continue. James 2, verse 18 to 20. Now, he's giving an example. But someone might say, you have belief and I have works. Show me your belief without your works, and I shall show you my beliefs by my works. But do you wish to know, O foolish man, that the belief, the faith, without the works is dead? I will repeat it again. The faith the belief. So without the works is dead. If you don't have work in your faith, it is dead. So if people says to you don't have to work for your salvation, knowing that salvation and faith goes together, are lying. You must work because faith without work is dead. So if faith without work is dead, your salvation is dead also. You have to do something for your salvation. What do you have to do? Sacrifice? Of course, not the sacrifice. That's not what he's speaking about. He's speaking about righteousness. You have to obey the instructions of Yahweh. That's what the works are all about. Works is not just putting a nail in a plank. That's not the kind of work he's speaking about. He's speaking about applying, accomplishing the will of the Father. When we speak about works, you have many different kind of works. That's why the context is important. Of course, one of those kind of works were the sacrifices. But as far as we are concerned, we don't do that kind of sacrifice anymore. We are not Levites. We are not in the temple of Yahweh in Jerusalem. Okay, that's one point. And that kind of work is not required of us. The work that all the apostles and Yeshua are speaking about, once we walk in newness of life, I want to be clear with that. The work they are requiring is to walk in righteousness. We have to wear clothes of righteousness, but righteousness is defined by the Torah. That's why we have to obey the Torah, but the Torah of righteousness, not about the sacrifices. That's the sacrificial system of the Levites. It belongs to the temple service. We are concerned as former Gentiles being called out. We are concerned about the righteous law, the moral law that people call it, and also the Shabbat, which have nothing to do with the temple service. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not be a false witness. All those laws, in fact, those commandments, those instructions, those are the work that we have to do. We have to obey Yahweh. People have to understand, in Greek the word works applied to many different things. It's work, simply work, what you do. That's what it means. It's what you do. As far as we are concerned, that's why the context is important. He's speaking to people which have to accomplish the instructions of Yahweh. You have to remember the Shabbat and keep it holy or set apart. You have to be careful how you use the name of Yahweh. Not too much. Be careful in what condition you use it. You have to have only one Elohim, which is Yahweh himself. Whatever way you pronounce it, okay, as long as it is the one which is known under the Tetragrammaton in the scriptures, that's the one you have to obey, etc., etc., etc. No incestuous relation, no whoring, prostitution, all those things. Those are the kind of work that we are supposed to do. That's avoiding those things, walking in righteousness of life, newness of life in Yeshua. That means stop sinning. Okay, that's the works we have to do. Stopping sinning and do something right. Okay, that's why it's impossible for Yeshua to put the law away. He cannot do that. Why? Because he abides himself by the law. He is the Word. Remember, he cannot eliminate himself since he is resurrected. Let's continue. Well, I think, did I read that? Yep. Let's continue with James 2, verse 21 to 24. Was not Abraham, our father, declared right, see, righteousness now, by works when he offered Isaac his son on the altar? He was declared right by what? Works. Do you see that the belief was working with his works, and by the works the belief was perfected? See that works are important with faith. And the scripture was filled, which says, Abraham believed in Elohim, and it was reckoned to him for righteousness. And he was called Elohim's friend. Don't you want Yahweh to say, oh, you are my friend? And to have Yahweh himself, the Creator, as your friend? Not bad, huh? You see then that a man is declared right by works and not by belief alone. So you need works, because it is those works which makes you righteous. But of course you have to choose the works you are doing, and the only works which makes us righteous by definition is righteousness. And the work of righteousness are defined by the Father, which is righteous. But you can see here, Abraham had faith in Yahweh, but it was not enough. Now he had to put that faith in work. What is the work that Abraham did? We saw it. He obeyed. It was obedience. Obedience is what it's all about. Obedience. Yahweh wants obedient sons and daughters. That's the kind of work. So when Paul says you have to work to your own salvation, he's not speaking about the sacrifice and things like that, of course. He's speaking about obedience. Remember, Paul was addressing Gentiles. So for him, he understood what he was saying. But Gentiles, even to this day, have difficulty sometimes to understand Paul. When Paul says you have to work to your own salvation, yes, you have to. How? By obeying, by walking the same path as Yeshua followed. That's how you walk in Yeshua, in the same way as him. As he did, you do. You are sure there not to do any mistakes. Of course, he offered sacrifice and he went to the temple. We don't have sacrifice, don't have temple anymore. And most of us are not Jews. We don't live in Israel. Most of us here, me, myself also, are former Gentiles being called out to repentance. We have to learn the process. But the sacrificial system, as far as we are concerned, are not the work we are doing. We are not priests. Okay? We are not in the temple doing those sacrifices. Sacrificial system is one system in the Torah, specific to the temple service. As far as we are concerned as people, members of the body, as people being called out, we are like the Israelites, beside the sacrifice that they had to do, we must obey Yahweh, period. And the Ten Commandments and all the commandments and the law and the instructions which are linked to the Ten Commandments. Those are the kind of things we have to obey to. Those are the kind of things we have to submit. Those are the works. It's what you works simply mean what you do or don't do. So what do you have to do for Yahweh? Don't steal. Instead of stealing for someone, work for it. That's what Yahweh asks. So do the opposite of what is wrong, what is good. Period. So it's not difficult to understand that you need the instructions of Yahweh, the Torah, to know what to do, right? Why? Because it is those Torah, those instructions, which define what righteousness is. And if you apply those things, then you are considered right. Then it is accounted to you as righteousness. So it's important to define what the works are. The works are obeying Yahweh the Father in everything he asks us to do. Abraham was asked to go to the point of sacrificing Isaac. And what did he do? He obeyed. Why? Because he believed. What did he believe? He believed that Yahweh was powerful enough to resurrect Isaac from the dead. Why did he believe so? Because Yahweh made him the promise that Isaac will be the son of the promise. He will be the heir of the covenant made it with Abraham. So it was a promise. And he believed so much in Yahweh that for him he said, okay, I will do it. I will sacrifice him because you will have to raise it anyway. Why? Because if Yahweh doesn't raise Isaac, Yahweh would have been a liar, of course. You see, that's the whole point. But he had to do something. But again, I want to repeat what it says. You see then that a man is declared right by works and not by belief alone. So you have to do something. Let's continue, verse 25 and 26 now in James chapter 2. In the same way, was not Rahab, remember the whore, the prostitute in Jericho, also declared right by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way? I want to repeat that because think about who they are talking about here. They are speaking about a whore in Jericho, in Canaanite land, in the Canaanite city. In the same way, was not Rahab the whore also declared right by works? So Yahweh declared her right. And she was a whore in Jericho. But she was declared right. Why? Because of her work. When she received the messengers and sent them out another way. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so also the belief is dead without the works. If you had any people in your family which died, like it was my case with my dad, and if you saw their body, it's a dead body. The spirit is not there anymore. They are dead. They are just there laying down. There is no breath, no life, no action, nothing. Nothing is happening anymore. They are just there laying down. They don't react, they don't dream, they don't live. They are just there. And yet, that's what James used as a comparison. The same way as you see that the body without the spirit is dead, so also the belief is dead without the works. And there is a sense to that. The works is what gives life to your belief, in a sense. Believing is not difficult. I believe in the sun because I see it. I believe my father exists once before he died. I believe in a cat. I believe in a chicken. I believe in a coconut tree. I believe it's not difficult to believe. It's not even difficult to believe in Yahweh. It's not difficult to believe in Yahweh. That's not the point. Believing in something, believing in something is important, but it's not difficult. It's really not difficult. You can believe in anything. How many people do believe in deities which does not even exist, and they believe in it? What makes things different with Yahweh is your work, what you are doing right. When you apply the work that Yahweh decides that you have to apply, and the work He decides you to apply is the Torah, the instructions of Yahweh, your moral law, the things what you have to do to live and to love your neighbor as yourself. That's the work. That's what defines the work. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And then he make a list of all of those things to be sure that you understand the point. But it's not difficult to believe in Yahweh. What Yahweh wants is not just that you believe in Him, but that you do something, that you show Him that you really believe in Him, like Abraham, Rahab, and others. You believe in Yahweh? Okay, prove it. How do I prove it? Obey Him. Obey Yahweh. That's how you prove to Him that you believe in Him. There is no other way around. But those works require an action on our part. And that action gives life to our belief. So belief and works together make belief alive. You see the difference? You can believe in anything you want. If you don't do anything, your belief is dead. It doesn't have energy. It doesn't have life in it. But you put life in your belief by the action. You put energy in your belief. You put them in motion. And that motion is what gives life to your faith, to your belief. And that's what defines belief with works. It's lively. So 7 times James make a point that belief without the works is dead. Belief without the works is dead. Sometimes he changes a little bit the word, but it's always the same. Belief without the works is dead, etc., etc. He will repeat it again and again and again. That's why I wanted to read it to you. I'm not inventing those things. It's there in the scriptures. You have to work for your own salvation. Belief requires works. So you have to be saved. You have to work. You just have to define the works. It's always the same problem in the scriptures with people when they read the scriptures. First, define what they are speaking about. The works they are speaking about, of course, are not the sacrifices. It's not what Yahweh is speaking about. Because we are living sacrifices. We don't need to offer other sacrifices. We are the sacrifice already. We sacrifice our life, our time for Yahweh. What Yahweh requires of us, and what He explained to us through James, is we have to obey Him, and those are the works He requires of us. We have to forget our past life as Gentiles to become like Hebrews. We are part of Israel, remember? We become grafted in Israel. So we have to live according to that same principle and same rules of morality. We have to pay attention to those things and live according to those things. It's important for Yahweh. Those are the works which make us righteous. Sacrifice does not make us righteous. Sacrifice, killing an animal doesn't make you righteous. What makes you righteous is thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder. Those are the kind of law which makes you righteous. True belief, true faith require works. It is mandatory. That's the point. Salvation require belief. We saw that. Belief require work. We just saw it. So salvation require work as well, because they are bound to each other. They are bound to each other. I will read again James chapter 2 verse 14. Now that we saw that. And remember what it says. My brothers, what use is it for anyone to say, he has believed but does not have works? This belief without the works, that's what he's speaking about, is unable to save him. So if you don't obey Yahweh, if you don't walk according to His right rulings, His ruling, if you forget the 2 great commandments that Yahshua gave, thou shalt love thy Elohim with all thy strength, with all thy mind, with all thy force, all that, everything, all your life must be put in. And thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Those are the basics of what the works which are required of us are. Not the sacrifice. You don't show love to your neighbor by sacrificing an animal, no? And you don't show love to Yahweh by sacrificing an animal neither. The sacrificial system was there for a purpose, for the sin of the physical Israel in the wilderness and then in the land. But we are not required to sacrifice animals. we are required to sacrifice ourselves, the same way as those animals were sacrificed. Those were the points of those animals. They were prophetical. They were a call to what we will be later on. Okay, but if we don't have works in our belief, it's unable to save him. I'm not inventing it. It is in James chapter 2 verse 14. Check yourself. Okay, so if someone says to you, you don't have to work for your salvation, it's a lie. It is in the scriptures, so you have to work to your own salvation. Being under grace does not prevent you to work for your salvation. We just have to define what kind of work we are speaking about. The works are those defined by Yahweh as obey the law or obey the instructions. I prefer the word instructions because it's not the law, it's the instructions. Law is more legalistic or penalistic. No, we are speaking about the instructions of a father to children here. But if you want to be saved, you have to obey those rules. You don't, you are not saved. You cannot be saved. So that's what people do not understand about salvation. It is a process in 3 times which require belief. So you have been saved. That's the past tense. Remember, you have been saved. You have been saved through grace. That's the gift of Yahweh. You have been saved. That's concerned the past. When you were Gentiles, you were not under the grace of Yahweh. Well, Yahweh gives you grace. And the grace of Yahweh is, I forgive you past, but now you have something to do. Now I give you the opportunity. That's the other part of the grace. That's a gift. It's a favor. I gave you the ability to change yourself and to work to your salvation and inherit the covenant promises. And that's what you are doing now. You are being saved now, in the present. Yahweh is saving you through your work. But you are not the one deciding the works. Yahweh decided. The same way as with Noah. Noah did not decide to build a boat and how to build a boat. Yahweh told him, how to build a boat, why to build it. It was important. So he was saved, but he had to work for his salvation also. But the instructions came from Yahweh. It is Yahweh who decides what works saves you. And as far as we are concerned, the works that saves us is the instructions of Yahweh. We have to obey him. That's why it says in the scriptures, you have to walk as Yeshua walked. If you walk like him, you cannot sin. You can never sin because he never sinned. I agree, it's difficult, but that's the point. If you follow the footstep of Yeshua, there is no way you can sin. But I agree, it's more easier said than done. I agree with that. And then you have the future tense. You shall be saved. And that future tense, in fact, is the result of all the 2 others. We have been saved of our past, and we are working to our salvation now. The result is, you shall be saved. That means definitively. You shall be like Elohim. You shall be like Yeshua. You shall be in a resurrected body, righteous, perfect, white, without spot, without blemish. Then you shall really be saved, in a sense. That's what it means. So, when Paul speaks to the Ephesians, he's speaking to them about their past life. They were saved from their past through grace and not by works. And that's true. And it is true that they did not think to be saved from the past life, like us. Yahweh did it all through Yeshua. It was Yahweh's gift. However, once saved of our past, like the Ephesians, the penalty of death being removed from us, we now have to do something, walk in belief. That's what we saw today. We have to walk in belief. And that walk, as we saw with Abraham, have steps to follow. And those steps are those followed by Abraham, Yeshua, and all the righteous people you will find in the scriptures. And they are simply the words of Yahweh. Remember, Yeshua was the living word of Yahweh. That's why he came here, to show us what to do. So that we do the same as him. We do the same as him, we will be saved. But we have to work like him. We have to work. That's our work. Our work is not the sacrificial system. Our work is walking according to the instructions of the Father, the same way as Yeshua the Messiah walked the way of Yahweh. That's the work. That's how you work to your own salvation. Those are the works that Yahweh requires of us. If you don't do that, you don't have belief, because those are the works which are linked to faith. See, so it's not really complicated. We just have to define the words. Okay, so next week we will continue with the topic. There is other patriarchs. We are still speaking about Noah here, by the way. So thank you for tuning in. You can remember also continue to send message, comment if you want on the number I gave you last time. So don't hesitate to send comments. So I will read, I can answer. Sometimes I'm really grateful for the questions or the comments, so don't hesitate. I just want to thank you for all of you which are tuning in to listen to the show, whether you are in Digos, Tagum, Cabantian, and other places in Davao or other places. So a big thank you, and thank you for Radio Kai to make this show possible. Because without them, it will not be possible to be on the waves. So you can listen to something. I hope I can share something useful for you that you can help you. So next week I will continue with this. So until next week, Yahweh bless you and your family and your friends, and have an excellent day ahead. And
Thank you, dear friends, for listening to this show. Yahweh bless all of you in Yeshua the Messiah. Until next time, this is Elder Joel Peters. Peace be with you. Shalom.